A goal that I had in setting this up was that students would have a better sense, particularly of the auditory side of this, not just the music, but also Langston Hughes is writing in dialect. And it's a Southern dialect, and it's a Southern Black dialect. And I think a lot of students reading it on the page feel a certain distance or confusion about the sound of the words. So once you give the words voice, that opens up already for students a sense of the person behind the poem. And I don't just mean the poet, because poets construct personas in poems. So students can, through engaging their different senses and experience, have new understandings of the material before them. So when you first go into the cave and you put your goggles on and you trigger the program to begin, the first thing that will happen is that the lyrics of the poem, The Weary Blues, written by Langston Hughes in the mid-1920s, will come up and scroll across the brick wall. After the initial poem, the scene then opens up and students have the opportunity to navigate and explore the Blues Club. Within it, they'll find live performances. They're able to listen to blues poems and to learn about influential poets, musicians, and geographical locations influential within the blues. Virtual reality really provides the user with an immersive experience. I learned at a recent conference on virtual reality the ways in which it enhances human comprehension of abstract ideas, the way in which it opens up individual approaches to what a person is curious about when they look at an object, and how people will empathize with what they're seeing. This experience led me to think about ways in which we could be using that type of technology to teach the blues. So our students aren't just listening and checking off a box of, oh, that's the blues, let me now go back to the poem, but they'll have a better sense of the people and the culture behind the blues. Music consumption for students today is a very singular experience, curated through platforms that automatically feed students content based on their interests. In the 19th and 20th centuries, music exposure was more communal and took place in groups. Bringing students together in the cave attempts to recreate that experience. Before I take my students to the cave, I like to set up the content and provide a context within the classroom, then experience the technology and wrap up what they've learned back in the classroom to unpack the experience. You have to come back afterwards and have a conversation. What did you notice? What did you think? What did you link? How did this musician connect to that? Now when you look at Langston Hughes's poem, let's go back to it again. What can you add to this poem? What greater sense, what greater understanding do you have, having heard and seen what you have about Harlem, about Lenox Avenue, about the sound of the blues as it migrated up the Mississippi and eastward or north to Chicago? How did it change? So the experience of being surrounded by art, listening to music, having it come through the speakers, having the floor beneath your feet of the club and seeing the tables there, it really changes the idea that you're part of this world. And now when you go back to the poem, you as the reader are changed in some way, so that it's not just a piece of paper or a book, but it's an experience that you once shared and you can understand it differently.